Another day, another chance, another way, another dance. Today, I'll be going over, a tutorial that I've been working on HTMX. It's pretty much everything that I've been doing. So it's actually gonna be a merger of HTMX and Django. That's what it's gonna be. So it's gonna be making use of HTMX, Django, HTML, and Python all at the same time. Except a lot of my functionality I'm gonna get from extension API extensions from the web and not from my actual input. The only thing I'm gonna be having is views, forms, templates, modules, and apps. That's it, man. And that's all I'm gonna have. So the name of my tutorial is CRUD tutorial one, right? So it's CRUD tutorial one. So I got an app, main app, media, person, environment, profiles, right? Manage.py. That's what I've got. That's the stuff that I have, man. So those are the things that I have. So yeah. I got my app right. So this is pretty much got all my setups and everything. So this is my Django. App is my Django. So everything that I need, to jumpstart my server is in this folder. So asgi.py, wsgy.py. As you can see it, the server says this is a development server, not used in a production setting. Use a production wsgi or asgi server instead. So as you can see here, these are responsible for these are pretty much responsible for the server, the functionality of it. So that's what it actually gives you. And then in URLs, what it does is it takes the URL paths that you have in your address bar, on your web page, and pretty much tracks it down. It pretty much, it pretty much helps you follow up in regards to that. So that's what it does. So got you got your imports here from Django.contribute import admin from URLs import path include. So include obviously is gonna include main apps URLs. It import settings URLs static import JSON response. So this is a method, right, where it pretty much requests dev tools for Chrome. That's what it requests, right? And then you got URL patterns. So you got different patterns that your app will go to in that chronological order that you see them in. So you first go to admin, and then you can go to your main app, and obviously you can go to your dev tools. So yeah. So obviously the reason why this part is empty is because within your main app, you got different URLs for your main app. The URLs I'm gonna show you when I get to my main folder for my actual app, not just my Django framework. So in order for us to actually move between different URLs from within the main app folder, this has to be empty so that we won't have a case where we fixated on one URL and one URL only. So include main app.url. So the include that, as you can see here, the imports include. So this include, what it does is it takes everything, the paths, methods, and everything from main URLs from the main app and imports them here. Then I got an if settings.debugger URL patterns plus equals. So plus equals, make sure that you retain the original the original the value, but you add onto it equal plus equal static settings dot media underscore URL document underscore root equals settings dot media underscore root. Yeah, I mean, that's what you pretty much have, man. And then you go to your settings. So obviously for my settings, I got site URL, right? Media URL, os.path.join, yada yada yada. Authorized password validators, right? Templates, and then you got your middleware. So obviously, because my apps or the apps that I created don't automatically come along with aren't automatically installed. I have to add them myself. So my apps default Django apps and then app. So that's what I have in my folder. And then for templates, obviously it was was recognized before that the HTML is responsible. The HTML is responsible for all the functionality that you see on the front end. I mean, not functionality, but it's pretty much the framework, the body, the skeleton for all the stuff that you see on the HTML, but it doesn't have any functionality. Hence our Python and our API extensions. Hence those. So you got index.html, person underscore form. So what index.html does pretty much the home page. It's responsible for what you actually see. So you got your buttons, your div elements. When you're trying to add functionality, the stuff that you got in your HTML, you know, you can use your div IDs and your div classes to refer to everything on your HTML page that you're trying to. But let me actually use ChatGPT for all of this, man. Yeah, so let me use ChatGPT. Okay, so obviously you got your div class, your button for your button as well, and then reasons why. Oh, sorry to cut you off. Reasons why we use ChatGPT is to actually a better understanding of what the code is. Yeah. You understand? Yeah. I know, I understand, bro. I understand 100%, man. HTMX to load the edit form here. That's what it does. Right, so fixed person underscore form dot HTML, main app, slanted template. So obviously, what this comment says for person form underscore form dot HTML, main app templates, main app person underscore form dot HTML. You know what I mean? So obviously, this shows you like the 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 structural patterns that we got. So we got our main folder called main app, templates folder, main app folder, then HTML index.html, and that's it. That's what it is. So listed ID is equals to person ID class list group item. So what this form does actually adds like the functionality. So it takes the URL for person update, informs in views. It takes the URL in person update and uploads it from urls.py. Then you got CSRF token. this is actually important because when I didn't have a token, it pretty much gave me problems. My code pretty much gave me problems. So that's important. I'll tell you now what it is, man. So it's a secure, unique, and unpredictable value generated by a web server to prevent cross-site requests, forgery, attacks. So when you have a token, nothing that you've got can be forged. So, for example, I got a token for name, email, phone, major, and profile image. Then profile image. So what this does is it actually creates like a live image display. I'll show you when I actually run the code. A live image display of what I actually did, right? Of the picture that I actually chose. So you got your div elements, IDs, and your buttons, and then you also got script, events, delegation, instead of duplicate IDs. So you got document, dot query selection all, profile image input, and dot for each input equals to or greater than input dot add event listener change function in event. So obviously your constant variable, what it does is it makes sure that everything that all the variables that you have, your VARs and stuff, remain that way. In the sense that you can modify them. If you do, it's going to return an error. So that's constant. Preview ID, if event delegation instead of duplicate IDs. So what this does is the preview ID, what it does is it takes it pretty much makes use of a constant variables and if else statement to pretty much give the functionality to what you've got. It's pretty much responsible for the event delegation, right? For your profile image. So it's responsible for the event of you, uploading your image, to your file or to your web page. Hence, you can add event listener, change function event, create selection or profile image input for each, and then fixed .py person update. All right, so this is actually the viewing. So this is actually the viewing section. So let's go to uh, okay, person form .html. All right, so let me go back, and then you got person item.html right now. So obviously you got your folder patterns. Then you got your ID, which is person ID. So this person underscore item.html, what it does is responsible for holding the values, right, of the person. It's responsible for holding their values, right? It's responsible for holding all the information in. So for example, you got Xabendlini at gmail.com, his number, his major, and his actual name. So person underscore item.html is responsible for holding his items. Person underscore form.html is responsible for actually helping delegate new items to your database or your contact manager. So you got your ally div classes, image source, div classes are for your Python files for your back end. So when you're referring, when you want to add functionality to your div elements and classes, it won't be a hassle as there's a correlation between the back end and the front end. So hence we got IDs and classes. So this is for like your items. button class, hx get, hx target, hx swap equals outer HTML edit button class btn sn btn outline danger, then xs dash delete URL person delete person.id hx target equals hashtag person.id out, and then outer HTML delete. So these are the button classes for your buttons and stuff. So you got your listings and etc. So this is for like person's items. Then you got your views. So what your views is the import like renders get object of 4.4. That's if you come across an error, HTTP response. So yeah, HTTP response, man. That's pretty much for like your hypertext. I'll tell you now. I'll tell you now, man. Yeah, right. Secure version of it, right? So obviously it's a server that gets sent back to the client or me. Then import a render string person, then person form. So you got a method for index request. So when you're requesting like a person, right, a person form, that's what you get. Then dev person create request. So you can if an if statement. So if request that method is strict equal operator post form equals person form request that post request that files. If form that is underscore valid person equals form that save HTML equals render to string main underscore app person underscore HTML item dot HTML person then return HTTP response HTML return HTTP response error recreating person status 400. So obviously the HTTP is pretty much like a message that gets sent back, a message byte that gets sent back to the server, or the server sends back to a client in response to like the request the client ordered. Let's say for example you want to create, but your form's empty, then it's gonna read out error creating person with an if statement. Then person update. So person equals get underscore object or 44, right? So if request that method string equal operator post form equals person form, request that post request that files instance equals person. If form is that if form that is underscore valid person equals form that save HTML equals render to string and then return HTTP response, right? So you got to return here error updating person delete request underscore pk, and then person get object or 44 person bracket pk equals pk person that delete return http response in an edit form. So these are methods that pretty much give us functionality, right? CRUD functionality, so we can edit, delete, create, and add. So that's what we can do, man. And then update. So when you add a person, you're pretty much updating. Same thing here, edit form. So you can be editing with the method, then parameters. Parameter get object or for person pk equals pk return render request main underscore app person underscore form that html person. Then like discussed before, you got your URLs, patterns. So this is the CRUD, right, for our main app. So create, edit, update, and delete. So as you can see here, this is the CRUD that you got. And then the main URL pattern that you visit first is for views that index name equals index. So the views that you got, man, are the ones that we're visiting and seeing that you got multiple views, right? Multiple methods in the view.py. This can be left empty, because at the end of the day, the different paths that we need to go in and out of. So that's what it's gonna be from Django.urls import path from dot import views, and that's it. Right, models.py, so you got the class, and then you got your class, right? And then you pretty much have like your person, which pretty much like your model or your parameter. So you got name, model dot chart field, max length, 100. So you only allowed up to like 100 words. Email, models dot email field, unique equals true. That means you have to add in your email, otherwise it's gonna give you a requirement to do so. Phone equals models dot chart field, max underscore length 20. Phone numbers, you can only go as far as 20 digits for your phone number. Major equals models at chart field. Max equals 100. Blank equals true. Null equals true. So I'm sure that means you don't have to add it in. Profile underscore image, models at image field, upload to profiles. Blank equals true. Null equals true. So these two, they got blank and null equaling to true. That means the optional, you know So unique equals true, that means you have to add that. Then you got a div string to itself, and then yeah. So you got your import forms, import person, class, person form, forms at model form, class meta, model equals person, fields equals name, email, phone, major, profile, uh, 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 underscore image. And then you got the class main app, configuration, app config, default auto field Django, the dp that models big auto field name main underscore app, and then obviously I'm not using Django, so I don't have like a module. Right, so let me just show you the functionality on my terminal. Right, so obviously what I did was I created like an environment. So what I did was I created an environment. Right, so what happened was I did settings because my set execution policy has been disabled. I've set it in the terminal. I'll show you now. So you set that, set execution policy, you run that, Python, MV, oh damn, bro. VNV, and then whatever you want to call your virtual environment, you do that, then you run that, and then you do env name. Well, I said enc. Yeah, I said enc, man. Damn it, bro. You know. Then scripts, and then you run that, and then you activate your terminal. So that's what you've got, man. Yeah, and then you got your profiles. So profiles and media, those are the things that got added automatically because those are the things that got added automatically. And then your manage.py is for your server. So this is pretty much your method for your server, right? So input error. So OS environment dot set defaults import OS import system from Django.core.management import h2 underscore from underscore command underscore line set import error as execution reads import error could import Django. So if you don't switch on your uh, virtual environment or you don't have Django installed in your terminal, installed, then obviously the strings are gonna return this. Are gonna return this. Are pretty much gonna return that execution from command line. Then yeah. So without further ado, let's head over to our code. So obviously, as you can see here, we got father's credentials, sister's credentials, my credentials, my former tutor's credentials, my best friend's credentials. Now let me add a person's credentials now. So let's say Dabo.